with Kevin Dorn. So Kevin is an expert in cloud-based communication solutions. So Kevin is our expert in cloud-based communication solutions and our contact center technology. He's worked with businesses of all sizes and verticals, has experience helping customers with traditional telecom and bandwidth services.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit about Microsoft Teams. It has been an application that I have become very much a fan of. We've been using it. I've been using it here at iT1 actually prior to even COVID. And it seems to be growing quite a bit, and for good reason. I'm actually going to talk a little bit about a couple different things. I'm assuming that there's a lot of people here that are on this meeting for a variety of reasons. One could be that you are not as familiar possibly with Microsoft Teams, and you're just curious about how you can standardize your communication environment on that actual tool. And then I'm going to assume that there's a lot of people here because based on the conversations I'm having with companies today, you're probably here because you've been using Microsoft Teams and possibly you started using Microsoft Teams due to COVID. You had people working from home. You have Microsoft subscriptions that allowed you to utilize the tool, and it was a very simple process or relatively simple process to get them onto that application and collaborating either through video or through chat, persistent chat, as well as teaming and file sharing capabilities. And I'll try to talk to everyone at those different levels. I want to talk just kind of briefly about the things and trends that I've seen real quick due to COVID. Prior to 2020, a lot of the big push was migrating, obviously, from on-premise to cloud. And Unified Communications as a Service, or many of you may have heard of the acronym UCaaS, was sort of the big deal. And we certainly saw that here at iT1. We saw a lot of companies migrating to that. That was primarily what I was doing in my role. And I still do a lot of that today. And the big deal was consolidating your phones, messaging, and video applications into a single application. Since 2020, since COVID, March of 2020, that actually has changed a lot. The adoption of virtual meeting tools and collaboration software, in most cases here, Teams, right, which is really the big piece, as well as Zoom video in some cases, changed a lot of that sort of consolidation. It's not so much a question of UCaaS as much as how do we now migrate services into these applications, and how do we get them there so that we don't have separate applications in every single sense. How can we integrate some of these services? Microsoft Teams, everyone knows about Zoom and Zoom blowing up. Microsoft Teams was sort of under the radar, adopted within a lot of organizations, and maybe not for the same reasons that it was adopted in that Zoom was adopted, which was primarily as a video application. But Microsoft Teams filled that role of how do I chat with people? Maybe conversations that I was having in the office. How do I now do that and replicate that here at my home? So what does this mean now for phone services and the phone conversation? Well, we're still migrating from on-prem to the cloud. That is still going. It is a reality that's been now in place for many, many years and is continuing to take place. And this is what I'm seeing all the time. But one of the big changes is that, like I said, the integration of the phone services into that existing collaboration tool, into Microsoft Teams. How do I get my phone services there? So usually when people are looking to put their phone services into Microsoft Teams, they're doing it for a few different reasons. Number one, they want phone calling within the Microsoft Teams application. So many of you, if you probably have this application on your computer right now, you pull it up and you can see a little icon there that's got a little phone next to it, right? And possibly within the organization, people may be calling each other today within the company. And the next question is, well, how do we do this for external calls? How can I call a direct inward dial, right? A DID, a 7-digit phone number or 10-digit phone number to people and clients and people that we're working with. and how can we consolidate all that communication within this application so that we don't have traditional hard phones or we have separate soft phones that we're utilizing. The other reason I see people making this transition is they're looking at cost savings, right? I mean, we're purchasing Microsoft services that may come with phone system capabilities. We're already utilizing the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, which is another reason why people want to migrate. How can I just kind of consolidate this, make it simpler, make it more cost effective? And those are some of the big reasons why I see people moving to Microsoft Teams, is for those reasons. When looking at building a phone system within Microsoft Teams, you can do this with a number of different licenses. You'll see the ones that are listed. This is from the Microsoft website. All of these today you can utilize and build a phone system within. You still need to add some different components. The Microsoft E5, which is their higher end enterprise plan, comes with one of the important components that you need in order to build a phone system, which is the calling or the phone system add-on. And so that one you don't have to purchase it, but everything else you're going to have to add that standard phone license, as well as have some kind of calling plan that you're going to utilize as well. Now, within the Microsoft Teams phone system, you have a bunch of different features. I listed them here. Again, this is from the Microsoft website. And you'll see that Microsoft Teams really does check off a lot of the boxes of all the real basic necessities that you need to have in your phone system, for the most part. Part of this presentation is going to be showing you where there are some deficiencies by strictly going to a Microsoft Teams or Microsoft only phone system. Again, I think Microsoft Teams is a fantastic application, and Microsoft is a great company. We're a Microsoft CSP, and we have a very successful CSP practice. Teams is bar none, in my opinion, really the best for collaboration, file sharing capabilities, and its integration into other Microsoft services that you might be using, like Outlook, let's just say, or maybe OneNote, and SharePoint or OneDrive. It is going to be great for all of those cases. Phone system is where we see a little bit more of a challenge, and you can do it through Microsoft Direct. We can sell you the licenses for that. But what we like to recommend is looking at a third party. So typical Microsoft calling plans start at $12 per user. They come with a limited number of minutes, 3,000 minutes per user. But they are missing, like I said, some key features. So Microsoft has calling queues. They also have auto attendance. But if you're looking for advanced options within calling queues, additional feature sets for routing calls, that's where it's going to be lacking. If you're looking for a better multi-level auto attendant capabilities, that's where you might find that Microsoft Teams on its own may not be able to fill that. Business texting, currently not a feature that's included within Microsoft Teams. Not that every organization needs that. You might be saying to yourself, well, we're not going to be do texting or anything like that, but there are some businesses where that is important. Call analytics. I've definitely seen that this is coming up quite a bit. Companies that adopt Microsoft Teams and try to do it with Microsoft on its own, purchasing those calling plans and just using the PBX or phone system capabilities that are built within Microsoft, often will come back and say, where do I find reports on things? How do I find out common reports, things that can be produced fairly easily? You can find some very rudimentary call reports and some very rudimentary call, I guess you could sort of say, analytics, but any of that kind of advanced stuff is just simply not going to be there. I believe there are ways to accomplish this if you are very proficient in Power BI, but for most companies, that's probably not going to be the case. You're going to be paying for additional development. Fax and analog services currently cannot be integrated into Microsoft Teams on its own. You will need a third party in order to do that. And with many companies that I talk to, they have usually some level of that. Some of them it's not as important, but there is some. So if you've got paging systems. Possibly you have legacy, let's say security door phones, many of which are analog based. Those things, in order to be integrated into your phone system, are going to need a third party. Currently today, there is no call center capabilities. Usually what I think of as a entry level to call center would be things like the basic capabilities to monitor, whisper, barge, being able for a manager to be able to listen into a phone call at any time, possibly jump into a phone call of an agent, as well as something like being able to produce real-time call reporting. So not just historical reporting, but real-time. So you could see and monitor a queue as calls are coming in. That is usually what I consider more of a call center feature, and Microsoft Teams doesn't have those capabilities, putting aside obviously more of the advanced call center features, which it doesn't have as well. I think this actually has been edited a little bit. I was looking a little bit on the Microsoft website, so it could be now that they're at a 4.9 reliability, but prior to that, they were a 3.9 reliability score. I would say that this particular score, even 4.9's reliability, is a little under what is coming to be more standard within the cloud phone system space. Typically, that's 5.9's or better is where sort of a standard reliability score is in. Again, I'll probably update this as I saw a little bit more on that today. But that's just one thing to keep in mind, is that the application itself, Microsoft Teams, as well as the phone system, had only published that their current service level agreement reaches 99.9%. It may also be missing some voice support models that other companies have offered, particularly in the unified communications as a service space. Things like 24/7 phone support, being able to call an engineer within the company, get them on the line, support you in maybe some changes that you need or issues that may be coming up in your phone system. Implementation services have traditionally, with cloud phone providers, been included in the monthly recurring cost. It was sort of assumed that the agreements that you put in place with them would include the implementation, maybe not on site, but remote implementation services. Those don't come standard in that $12 per user cost or any of the Microsoft licensing costs. They can be added on. And obviously here at iT1, we can offer those types of services, as well as 24/7 phone support, because we have a NOC. But those things are not included in those subscriptions that you would be purchasing for those phone lines. So I really like to suggest to our clients, for a lot of those reasons that you just saw, that to go to a third party, a company that integrates with Microsoft Teams. I'll show you a couple different ways that companies are integrating, but one of the reasons why they do that is for a number of different features and benefits. So for one thing, the price for third-party calling plans usually ranges between $5 to $15 per user, very much under what you probably would see. They also come with unlimited calling in most cases. Going back even to that price per user, often it's even a little bit more, or a little bit even sometimes under that, depending on obviously your volume. There are various models. Microsoft Teams, it's very much direct with Microsoft, is very much a one-to-one. You purchase a calling plan for each user. Other providers that are out there that integrate with Microsoft Teams can do a one-to-many. You might think of that as like a trunk and an extension. So you pay for your extensions, that would be your number of users, and then you can pay for your calling trunks for how much usage you think that you would have, right? And so a lot of times you can find a lot of cost savings by not doing a direct Microsoft approach. And unlimited calling is one feature. The analog compatibility is another piece. So if you do have maybe a legacy phone system that you need to integrate in, or legacy analog phones of some kind, a fax machine, a paging system, all of those things can be integrated utilizing a third party. Typical, like I said, reliability scores, 5.9's reliability Some of them even boast something higher than that. I've seen a lot of providers today indicating that their reliability is 100%. They basically say, if you experience any downtime on our service, we will compensate you, right? And for that downtime. And like I mentioned before, there's a lot of included voice support and implementation services that comes with their agreements. So those aren't additional costs that are incurred on the side. And then I listed a bunch of different feature sets that you can find, like we mentioned before, SMS capabilities. One of them that I didn't mention on that last slide that I should have is call recording. Today, if you would like to do call recording on Microsoft Teams, now this doesn't include this meeting, because obviously we're recording this meeting. This isn't considered a PSTN call, right? All of this meeting is happening over the internet, which we can record. But if you'd like to do call recording via the public switch telephone network, meaning I call your 10-digit phone number and I want to record that conversation, that has to be accomplished via a third party on Microsoft. Call center, I mentioned that. A receptionist app. This came up actually just recently with a client that I'm talking to, that they have to have a better way of sort of triaging calls, either parking them and then getting them to specific users within the organization. Think of it as sort of a larger view where you can see presence of users within the organization. The other types of business continuity, this is a big key. If you obviously go the Microsoft route and you experience, let's just say, downtime on any leg of that call, whether it's the PBX side, the user side, which would be the actual application, or even the PSTN side at the front end of that, there's obviously no other service provider. If you do have a third party, it does present itself with other business continuity opportunities that we can discuss further if you guys want. Different CRM integrations, like I said, multi-level auto attendance, all of these things are things that a lot of businesses have come to need in their phone system and capabilities that they've needed. These would be things that you could add with a third party on top of all of the same Teams features that we've all come to enjoy. There's two different types of native integrations. Now, the reason why I preface it as a native integration is because typically this is what most of the companies that I talk to are actually looking to accomplish, meaning they want the calls to be handled within the Microsoft Teams application. You don't want to have a application for Teams and a separate application like a soft phone. That would be a non-native integration. So people want those calls handled within the actual application. There's really two main ways that I see of handling that. I'll show you the other ones as well. But one of them is direct routing. You've probably heard of that one. The one that you may not have heard about that's becoming a lot more popular now is called Operator Connect. There's also some less common integrations. One of them is a managed SBC, session border controller. And as I show you these other two, I'll kind of explain what that is. And then the other one that I don't see very much, because I don't feel like this is probably what most people are looking at in terms of an integration, is more of the Teams plugin. And you can see these and sort of where they are. If you go into your Teams application and go down to the section where it says apps, right? I think it's the bottom left corner of your Teams app. You'll see tons of different applications that you can integrate within Teams. And you can find a lot of the UCaaS vendors, right, that maybe you guys have heard of, and different phone providers, but that's not a native integration. In most cases, what those integrations do is when you include them in, they include links and other things that direct you out to a separate software, whether it's a soft phone or a separate application. And that is why I don't consider those native. So this is an example of a direct routing integration. You'll see that the third party, whoever this is, handles both the public switch telephone network. That's all the SIP connections. You don't have to manage any of those things. They also manage the session border controller. That's in almost every case going to be cloud-based as well. So there's no additional equipment or anything like that that you have to put on site. It is truly a cloud solution. The difference here is instead of all of this traffic being routed into Microsoft as the phone system, the cloud PBX with Microsoft, you'll see that some of that traffic is actually sent to the third-party PBX. And in most cases, it looks more like all the traffic goes through the PBX because that's typically where you're going to house your auto attendant if you have one, or it could be maybe where some different queues may be, or that also might be where you are putting your you're going to be putting all of your scheduling, right? Because you have different call routes based on schedules. And so it'll go through your third-party PBX. It will then send that to the users, which are then integrated into your PBX here with Microsoft, which then brings that traffic down into the app. You also could have some users with a direct routing option that could be that may not even have a license with Microsoft. This could be a conference room phone. It could just be some sort of shared hard phone that's sitting somewhere. It could also just be a user, let's say, that's remote. They don't have Microsoft licensing. They just have a cell phone, and they need to be able to take calls on the phone system. This is where a third party is a really big help because you can put those workloads just on the third-party PBX, whatever that is, and they don't even have to go through Microsoft, but they could still integrate and talk with people on the Microsoft phone side. Operator Connect is actually even more simpler design, as you can see here. Basically, just get rid of that third-party PBX. The operator, and you can find, I'll just be very transparent, if you go into your Microsoft Teams Admin Center, you can find operators listed there. They're listed right under the Voice tab of your Microsoft Teams, within the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. And essentially what the operator does is it is a one-to-one replacement with the Microsoft Teams calling plan that I mentioned earlier. They manage the public switch telephone network, the session border controller. They send all of that traffic into the Microsoft Teams phone system, and all of the capabilities are managed there. So some of those things from the previous slide that I mentioned that are missing within Microsoft, those not necessarily would be included with Operator Connect, but essentially Microsoft will handle all of the routing and extensions and schedules. The third party will just manage the PSTN, the public switch telephone network side, making sure that you've got your numbers housed there and they're available when you need them. Oh, I said I was going to talk to you about the managed SBC. Basically, a managed SBC, I've seen this only 2 times, is let's say you have you're looking at just getting rid of your phone system, but let's say you have existing SIP circuits, let's just say, with a telephone provider. Maybe you've got Lumen, or you've got AT&T or Comcast or whoever, and you're in contract with them, and you can't get out of your contract. You can actually still direct that traffic to Microsoft Teams utilizing a session border controller. And with some of the companies that we work with, they can get you a managed SBC. So you point your SIP traffic to them. They then are responsible for this connection that takes place between the session border controller and the Microsoft Teams phone system. And so you can handle it that way. Again, I don't see that quite as often. I think most people they don't want to manage their, they want someone else to manage the carriers on the back end. They don't want to use their own, but that is an option. And I think probably where it makes the most sense is probably for companies out there that have existing contracts in place for their legacy voice circuits. So I got about, I think, 2 or 3 more minutes here, and I'm going to wrap this up. Working with iT1, one thing is we are obviously a Microsoft CSP. I'm assuming there's probably some people on here that probably use us as their CSP. There might even be some companies here that don't. We obviously want to be your Microsoft CSP. Like I said, we have a very successful Microsoft practice here at iT1. We have a number of different of engineers and managers and licensing specialists. And if that is something of interest, please you can reach out to me. There's another person on this call, Rebecca. She'd be a great point of contact, as well as your rep. But just to let you know, it is not a requirement. Let's say you have another CSP that you're working with and you would like to work with us from a voice side, maybe because that CSP isn't talking about these types of things. You can use us still in that use case, and we can work with you on those projects, and our providers can do that as well. Whenever we start, we like to start our engagements with a discovery and a strategy session. I don't like to lead with just a vendor. I have some customers that want to do that. Ultimately, I like to keep the engagements with vendors down to the ones that are really going to support the client's needs the best. And so that's why I like to do this discovery and strategy session, so we're not wasting time barking up the wrong tree, I guess you could say. This actually just a real quick snapshot of just kind of the way that I approach engagements with our clients. I have a whole presentation that I can do on this. I'm not going to do this today or go through this one here, but there is a process that we like to take, and it's true for just typical UCaaS engagements as well as our Microsoft Teams. And yeah, we have a lot of additional services, as you can see, that we can include in this, from lab and configuration, NOC, managed services. All of those things become really important when you're looking at a lot of these solutions.
I do have one question for you. So Chad Rodriguez wants to know, what about the toll calls or long distance? Is that a gotcha?
Well, I talked about two different things. If you did Microsoft calling plans, there's obviously a limit to how many minutes, but there's no limit to or any type of additional long distance or something when you call domestically. If you call internationally, there could be some additional costs depending on where you're calling. But yeah, you can get toll-free numbers as well within Microsoft Teams. All the third parties I mentioned as well. You can purchase toll-free numbers, and they have metered rates. If you're
how does the receptionist there was a mention about the receptionist app? Like, what does that entail? Is it just a Teams add-on, or can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. So one of the things within the Microsoft Teams application. Now, obviously, you can see presence. It's listed there on the left side of the application. You can see people. But what a lot of organizations are looking for is a single view, or maybe you have 100 people that you could list on a page at a time. And depending on the service provider, that could be something that's integrated, I believe, within the Microsoft application, or it could be a third-party software that you would just utilize. And you could add that on just for, let's just say, a receptionist. But essentially, it's just a bigger view, right? Like within, a lot of receptionists, maybe they send it to the same 4 or 5 people, so that's not that important to have it. But many times, right, they're trying to send it to maybe a queue, maybe they're trying to send it to a user extension somewhere, and having an ability to sort of see, okay, is this person in a meeting? Are they on a call? Are they doing a video call? Those sort of things. What kind of options do I have before I send it to them? Can I do do I have to do a blind transfer? Can I do a warm transfer? Having all of those options in a single application. It's hard to do that. I think a lot of organizations have seen that it's hard to do that just on the Microsoft Teams application by itself.
All right. So Scott is he's the strategic alliance manager with Jabra. So in his current role, he focuses on those Microsoft ecosystems. He takes pride in those complicated tech challenges we all love, right? And he loves to share his passion for great technologies. So for over 20 years, he's held IT, sales, marketing, and technical engineering roles. So without further ado, let's welcome Scott.
Thanks so much for the introduction. Jabra is a audio and video solutions company. We make devices that enable you to communicate wherever you might be. So you've got this phenomenal software platform. You've got great service providers and experts out there, like everything that iT1 Source can bring together for you. How do you connect people for that last 3 feet, that last part of the conversation? How do we enable them to do more? There's so many good reasons to make those migrations, and your organizations might be thinking about, how do we migrate to Microsoft Teams? How do we take better advantage of those situations? And you can see through this chart here, there's so many ways that we can help you take advantage of Microsoft Teams to benefit your entire ecosystem and anywhere that anyone might be working. We've been working with Microsoft for over 20 years. We have cohesive strategy and go to market with them as well. We work with them on their programs and their promotions. We're the leading device manufacturer in their ecosystem. We are the #1 headset maker when it comes to using Microsoft Teams right now. And if you want some numbers on that, Microsoft just recently came off their Inspire event. There's 270 million global active users on Microsoft Teams, of which right now 90 million are using Teams Phone. So there's a lot of folks using Jabra headsets. But there's also a lot of opportunity as well to help people embrace the platform even more. This is a great slide that builds on some of what Kevin said, talking about how we've moved in multiple waves of UC and different migrations. And Jabra has been there every step of the way working with Microsoft, going back to the days of Office Communicator, right through Skype and into Microsoft Teams. We've seen different challenges addressed along the way. And the current challenges we're seeing right now are the need for flexibility and integration, and getting the insight, the data, the telemetry, all those things to work in multiple environments as our challenging work situations have changed so much over the last several years. And this is a little bit about how they've changed. We now work differently than we ever have before. Some people work in their individual work zones. That's working at home. Maybe it's going into the office sometimes. Sometimes they collaborate in groups. There's hot desking and collaboration areas. And of course, working in meeting room spaces as well. So you need devices that are able to facilitate those different work modes. And of course, Jabra is able to answer the challenge when it comes to that as well. As you can see here, we have devices for quiet focused areas. And this could be your own personal quiet focus area inside a larger, louder environment. And also those very high collaborative environments like meeting room spaces where people want to get together and share their best ideas and shape their organizations as well. And of course, everything in the middle that goes along with it too. And here is our portfolio of Microsoft Teams certified devices. We've got an absolutely fantastic lineup. We make more Microsoft Open Office certified devices than anyone else out there. The Jabra Evolve 2 range is our most recent addition to the headset world. These devices were built from Microsoft Teams from the ground up, and I'll share a little bit more about the advanced integrations that they offer. Of course, many people were familiar with the Evolve headsets, which are still certified for Microsoft Teams, but are most likely used with Skype, and some mobile-first solutions as well. Like Kevin and I are using the Evolve 65E, which is an absolutely fantastic headset. Of course, collaboration has become a big part of our world as well, and Teams is the front line of that. We make audio-only devices as well as intelligent video devices as well. Frontline workers, I saw some mentions of people in manufacturing environments, also facilities. You're going to roll out Microsoft Teams. You can also implement a push-to-talk network over Microsoft Teams using Teams walkie-talkie, and we make devices dedicated for those environments that are noisy, where someone might want to have that easy access push-button talk to talk to everyone on their channel, like facility management or even on shop floors in the manufacturing world. Of course, call center space. This is what people think of headsets for traditionally, and we don't fall down when it comes to our solutions there. Our Engage line of headsets are pure digital, going right to the microphone and to the earpieces. So that means you get the most amount of telemetry and the ability to integrate into any contact center platforms you're working with. So all across the board, these are Teams certified devices. It's a rigorous process working with Microsoft to make sure that we are there working to make sure we implement everything they have to offer for us. When it comes times to choose those professional headsets, what kind of experiences do you want out of that? A lot of times it's about user experience and what they might get when they get this device. Better productivity, ease of use, phenomenal experience from an onboarding standpoint. It also is about making it easier to support as well. When we work with Microsoft, the devices are certified, they test on their platform, we test on their platform, we support and stand by each of those devices as well with fantastic support and warranty. And of course, being able to use these devices in a platform to implement them across your organization. We use durable materials, we go rigorous testing, and of course have an environment where you can provide firmware updates to extend the functionality and manage the features on all these headsets. As I mentioned before, we are a pioneer working with Microsoft. Our Evolve 75 headset is the first Microsoft Open Office headset out there. As of today, we've got 20 devices that are certified for Open Office. It's probably like 23 or 24 as well. These devices are able to handle up to 26 decibels extra of background noise than a typical headset. So that means that even though your environment might be very noisy, there's a lot of background noise, people talking, none of that noise is going to leak into your conversation. So if you're going to have your most important, most vital conversations, the $1 million calls to the most important customers or CEO, you want to use it on a trusted headset that's not going to let you down by letting someone hear important, maybe confidential background information. So we're able to provide that experience across the board. Unfortunately, many users and many organizations haven't explored certified devices. And right now we see that up to 58% of knowledge workers out there on the Teams platform are not using certified devices. They're experiencing challenges, and these challenges can lead to adoption issues. You've made this commitment to adopt Microsoft Teams, the numerous benefits that Kevin mentioned before. Your organization wants to embrace that. And it would be a shame to let that last 3 feet, that user experience, get in the way of getting that experience. And it can cause those issues with, not being able to hear someone, or someone not being able to hear you, or just not having the consistency and support for that platform to take away from integrating and doing better IT projects besides just end user support and trouble tickets. I have a slide here that's somewhat of a laundry list of what's missing when you don't get a certified device. I can go at length on any of these points as well. But some of the things that I like to highlight is that it's designed for purpose, our headsets. You get things like busy lights, dual connectivity, controls that match up so that if someone's working in a home environment, or they just want to go to the coffee room inside their office, they can mute their microphone, walk away, unmute it when someone wants to talk to them, and they don't have to be sitting at their desk searching for the calls, the buttons on their Teams control. Just things to make it easier. And on the flip side of it, it comes to support, because we do the certification with Microsoft and we build these devices to be an enterprise platform. You don't have to worry about those kind of challenges that if someone were to buy a headset off the shelf at like a Best Buy, they'd be running into some challenges there. So it really goes a long way towards making an investment in the platform. And one of some of these special features that we integrate when it comes to usability with Microsoft Teams, one of the features I love to highlight with a certified device, I multitask. I've got 20 windows open on my computer, and then a meeting starts. And rather than having to navigate through windows to find out where's my meeting, I get that purple pop-up notification in the bottom right. I hit the button on the side of my headset. It brings me to that pre-join screen, and I'm in my meeting without even thinking twice. Gets me to maximize my productivity time and minimize any kind of frustrations of trying to find controls in there. And as mentioned before, the mute controls, I know if I hang up on my headset, it hangs up Teams. I don't have to worry about going back to my desk. I can just kind of have fluidity throughout my day and know that my hardware is not going to let me down. A lot of the work happens between Microsoft and Jabra, and one of the promises of a certified device is that the telemetry and the data logging is shared between our organizations when it comes time to do help tickets. If there's a device that's not working, we investigate with Microsoft. If Microsoft sees an issue on their platform, they'll know it's a Jabra headset. They can identify if it's our issue. Either way, we work back and forth with each other. We don't point the finger. We get together and we work these issues out. We address the challenges. We make the user experience better. And of course, we know when it comes to adoption, you have tons of users, and your users all have different wearing styles and different work modes and everything else they want to do. So form factor considerations are always at hand here. These can go into play when you're dealing with accessibility. Maybe someone has issues with headaches or migraines or any sensory issues, hearing impairment, things like that. So not only does it create a more accessible environment for your users, but it also gives the users the devices they want to match up the type of experiences they need to do their job. Of course, we also like to make sure that the experience that people have using those headsets while they're in the office is fantastic, but also on the go. And our Jabra Sound Plus app allows that consumer grade experience when it comes to some of our good headsets like the Evolve 275 and Evolve 285 for having really good music. As you can see, the EQ settings on here, but also you can change things with the microphone settings, busy lights, get access to support. Those type of things are all built in here because we know that the flexibility promise that we need is that not only can you use a headset on your computer, but also on your phone as you're on the go. So which range of headsets did we talk most about? It's the Evolve 275. And I'm just going to highlight one of the headsets in this range that I think is an absolute tour de force when it comes to technology. That's our Evolve 275. This thing integrates the most technology I think we've baked into any headset so far. 36 hours of music time, 24 hours of talk time, active noise canceling. It's got a dedicated processor to do active noise canceling so that it blocks out background noise in the speakers so you don't hear it. It also is a premium open office microphone with a 33% shorter boom arm. So instead of having that long boom arm sticking out, it's shorter. You can use it with the boom arm folded up. You can use it down. And while it's folded down and you start a call like this, if you fold it up, it'll mute your call. So you have easy access to muting as well. It's super comfortable. We've used multiple ear cushion materials in here to block out the most amount of background noise. And of course, it's got that amazing connectivity with up to 2 different devices at once. So absolutely tour de force when it comes to technology. This is a hybrid hero device. So you want to use this in the office, at home, anywhere in the middle, coffee shops, you name it. This thing's going to be up to the challenge. But when we get into the rest of the lineup, we've got our Evolve 285, and that is a great headset as well. If you want something that's circumaural, blocks out the background noise, that's a good comfort feature as well. And then the device that Elizabeth is using here is our Evolve 265. This thing is fantastic. Everyday wireless headset, phenomenal range, good experience, good comfort. I actually use very similar when I'm at home to what Elizabeth is using, but I use only a mono headset. I actually personally like to hear the craziness in my house to make sure that nothing insane is happening. I can jump on it. But I trust that no one hears the background noise because that microphone is so fantastic on the end of that boom arm. So that's a really good look at our Evolve 2 range of headsets. Of course, we've got corded variants in there as well, and I'll give a quick snapshot over here of those devices. Our Evolve 230, Evolve 240, these are corded models as well, a little bit more of a value, easier to support in some cases as well. And then the high end, we've got our Evolve 275 and 285. Of course, as many organizations are super concerned about sustainability and packaging, the Evolve 275 or the Evolve 2 range of headsets absolutely delivers when it comes to that promise. A user, a new employee gets to a desk and gets one of these headsets, they're going to feel like they're absolutely loved and appreciated by their company. It just has that fantastic experience. And we use sustainable packaging. So if you've got goals that your organization is trying to embrace when it comes to sustainability, we'll help you get there. And of course, it's good for the environment. Just want to touch quickly as well on our original Evolve range. Like I mentioned before, this device is still certified for Microsoft Teams. We push firmware updates on these headsets. Some of these are 8-year-old headsets that are still current and working on Microsoft Teams today. So you can trust if you pick a headset, you make the investment in it, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to stand behind it for a long period of time so that you can continually use that headset and have a user base that's familiar with the controls. It kind of makes it easier to do adoption when everyone's using a similar headset. That way you hire a new person in the company and they've got some challenges, they can ask the person next to them, or just kind of have that common knowledge throughout your organization. So I don't want to go too far in without having mention of our video products as well, because so much of what we've done is transition out of working in the office to working from home, and video has become so important as part of that calling experience. And we have our Jabra Panicast devices here that are critical to that video experience. And the device I'm on right now is our Jabra Panicast 20. This is an intelligent video for personal users. It has a 4K image. It does intelligent zoom on it as well. As you can see, if I lean to the left, it tracks me left and right. It'll track me back and forth and zoom in on me. So it really does a good job of, you can just put it in your office, you can set it up and forget it, or use it wherever you have to take video calls. Intelligent light optimization. It's very compact. It's an aluminum chassis on this. It travels extremely well. One of the intelligent features that we've baked into this is the ability to do picture in picture, so you can highlight an area of a room. It could be a whiteboard. It could just be an object you want to show off in a manufacturing facility, but you can keep your visibility with the audience. They can see you while you're using it as well. So it's an absolutely fantastic camera from those intelligent experiences, as well as being able to deliver on just really, really good video quality. We include a really nice travel case with it too. So this thing travels nicely wherever you need to go. Our Panacast 50 is an intelligent video bar for if you want to move into a Microsoft Teams room environment. This thing is going to enhance your meeting room capabilities. It does do whiteboard capabilities as well without having to add additional hardware. It is a landmark device in Microsoft. They're using it for what are called hybrid optimized meeting rooms, which is the next generation of meeting rooms inside of Microsoft. And these rooms are just absolutely fantastic for that face-to-face integration. So you can quickly take what starts up as a phone situation and build a full collaboration solution behind the lines and use Jabra and iT1 to be all part of that along the way.
So I do have a few questions.
Sure.
So the first is, how long has Microsoft and Jabra been working together on these technical innovations?
Yeah, it's been 20 years since we've been working with them, and it's a continuous evolution. Our engineers and their engineers absolutely love working with each other and trying to solve the problems that you present to us. So, if you have feedback on any situations, we're happy to try to address those through current and future products. So, it's all based on what we do to design solutions for the users out there.
Excellent, excellent. And so who would provide customer support for Jabra's Teams certified devices when used on those Teams platforms?
Yeah, that's the real great thing about having a certified headset is that Microsoft will provide support if you go that route, and Jabra provides support as well. Of course, Jabra is going to get you real quick to the situation where if you've got a headset that's broken, we get your replacement on that as quick as possible. But certainly it's supported on both sides of the house by Microsoft and Jabra.
If there's any other questions, please feel free to read your iT1 rep, and we can answer any further questions or help you with any kind of needs that you might have.